All right, welcome to this unit on foundations. This is the resource that you're going through for Introduction to Mission. And this particular section is called What We Do. The prior unit talked about who we are. These types of questions are geared towards the International Mission Board and International Mission Board missionaries. That is the direct audience that this book is really speaking about. With regard to the questions, who we are and what we do, I believe that it is applicable to all sending agencies that aspire to do things in an evangelical kind of way with regard to missionary work all around the world. And so I believe that this has application not just within the organization of the International Mission Board, but hopefully for all the other organizations that are part of this endeavor of making the gospel known to the ends of the earth. Who we are, faithfulness to Christ, faithfulness to the church, and what we do, which is what we're going to focus in on just for a second with this particular unit. As you notice behind me, that question is often something that is asked. What exactly do missionaries do? Do they take care of orphans? Yes. Do they take care of widows? Yes, absolutely. Do they do service projects? Do they do have a variety of different platforms? Absolutely. Do they help out with a variety of different charitable works and compassion type of works? Yeah, you better believe it. But at the core of this, what missionaries do is really true of what a child would say if you went to like a children's kind of Sunday morning class and you went and asked them and you said, what exactly do you think that missionaries do? They would say something to the extent of they tell people about Jesus. And so it is a very simple response, but I hope that it's still maintained as a true response. Missionaries are entirely centered and focused on proclaiming Christ, being disciples who make disciples of all nations so that God is glorified. And so this is important for us to see, but the IMB provides us through this particular section within Foundations a way to really think about this beyond just that surface level response, which is missionaries go and they tell people about Jesus. So I want to share my screen just for a little while as we kind of look at some things within this particular section right here. And so if you look at this particular section, as you're going to read through it this week, it's just a simple section on what we do as IMB missionaries. Some of you might be thinking about this. Well, what does a missionary do? Well, it's got it in 4 parts right here. You can see right next to my picture, it says playing our part on a missionary team, wisely stewarding resources for the missionary task. This is a great little section right here because I love the fact that it talks a little bit about the fact that there are other evangelical missionary organizations. So important to recognize that and to understand that first of all, God's already at work. Secondly, that you're not the only one that's engaged in this work. You're not the only organization engaged in this work, and that there is a kingdom thing that is taking place. And the International Mission Board gets to play a wonderful role in that, as in some cases they might be their own type of team for a little while, but in many cases they're joining with local Christians and local churches combined with other sending organizations, and there's just a variety of people that are involved. And so that's why it's important for you to take a moment to read this and to understand how IMB missionaries are playing their part, which is this part right here, on a missionary team. Now this really is something, if you ever talk with someone who has gone and served overseas, you will begin to really understand that this is a very important part of a missionary's experience. A team, who they work with, exactly who are they connected to, whether it could be local churches, local Christians, it could be near culture Christians. In other words, you're working at a particular area and it's not heavily Christian, but you've got a nearby group of people that they do have some Christians and they've decided to mobilize themselves and be sent to go and reach these people as well. So you could be a part of a missionary team that also includes near culture Christians that actually, from a cultural perspective, they're a little bit closer to the target culture that you're trying to reach than you might be. So you've got local Christians, you've got local churches, you've got near culture Christians, and then you have other workers as well that are playing a role. And then most importantly, especially within the International Mission Board, hopefully you are part of a team within the International Mission Board that is more than just you. There could be other units. Now, when you hear that phrase, other units, it's like people who you might have a couple people who are single that are serving there for a short term. They call them journeymen. They might be there. You might have other couples, other families, units that are part of that team trying to do what you're doing as well in your context or your target city, your target area, or your target people groups. All right, so take a look at that. Make sure that you do read through this section. And then it also talks about wisely stewarding resources. This is an important part, especially for International Mission Board missionaries, because they are fully supported by the cooperative program and by Lottie Moon Christmas offering. And so because of that, through the generosity of churches, it's really important that one of the things that a missionary does and is supposed to do well is to be wise stewards of their resources, knowing that they've been given so much so that they can go out and do what God has called them to do. And this factors in some aspects of accountability with regard to what they are called to do. And finally, which I hope you'll always see this being brought back to this with regard to the Foundations book and faithfulness to Christ and faithfulness to his church. And now you see this, that a missionary is engaged in the missionary task, right? And so that is entry, evangelism, discipleship, healthy church formation, leadership development, and exit to partnership. And so there are a variety of ways that you as a missionary, if you go that direction, you would be called to be engaged in a variety of those different aspects, the different components of the missionary task. So this is what we have for us this week. Don't forget to read all of this on your own, to engage in anything that is a part of your unit, especially quizzes and discussions. God bless.